Ping William. Ato in Juba, Malatori. Hey, I'm yo. Ping William. Ato in Benti, wala kwaju. Hey, wow. Ping William. Ato in Malkal, wala Pinyaram. Ping William.
Major, pick up from here.
Thank you so much, Lagos State Media team. To our viewers, wherever you are tuning in, welcome to Lagos State Media Beyond Boundaries. And on this date, the 3rd of February, 2024, in the studio with me, we have Honorable General Pagan Amum Okiech. And most of you knows who is General Pagan. And last year, we had an interview, which most of you actually shared it a lot, and you had a chance to listen to his thoughts in regard to the political affairs of our country. On the same notes, we are bringing him live today to most of you in order to update the public in regard to the topic which we discussed last show. And on that topic, we'll be basically focusing on two aspects. Number one is the issue of peace negotiation, which has been relocated to Kenya from Rome by the government of South Sudan, and most of you are aware of that. And on the other side, we also tackle the issue of election. When you look at the current affairs of our country, it's like the leadership is prepared to go for an election, and yet there are some things which are not yet being in place, and many other political parties within the country are complaining that the agreement need to be implemented before we go for an election, and most especially the IO leadership in Juba. And we are here today to listen and also hear the opinions of the holdout group. And as most of you know, General Pagan is the spokesperson of the holdout group as referred to by the government, revitalized peace agreement in Juba, actually the government of national unity, rather. Permit me, the viewers, to request you once again, share this live show if you are watching us right now, because we need this interview to reach to many people in order to listen to him and understand the context and also the response in regard to the venue being shifted from Rome to Kenya, and what are the advantage and disadvantage of such a decision made by the government. And also about the elections, you also need to share this video or live show to listen to his opinions and also listen to the perspective as the group. On that note, permit me to welcome Gerald Pagan Amum Okiech, the chairperson of Real SPLM. Gerald, we are really glad to have you on this podium, and we don't take it for granted. We know you are busy and there are a lot of things that you want to attend to, but you always allot it to us a certain period of time in order to come and interact with your fellow South Sudanese and other nationals from the continent of Africa. We are grateful for that as Lagos State Media. Give us your opening remark before we dive into our conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Mujok, for inviting me to this show again. And let me start by greeting your viewers and listeners in the various platforms of Lagos State Media, and to wish all South Sudanese a Happy New Year. As we were last time discussing in December before the New Year, so let me take this opportunity to pray that the year 2024 will be a year of peace and return to stability, so that we South Sudanese present generation can focus on our historical task of building our state to be a state that is capable to deliver the promises of the liberation struggle to our people, to deliver services to our people, and to improve the lives of our people, and to ensure their security and freedoms as South Sudanese struggle to build a state of their own in which they can be free and rebuild their lives and achieve prosperity and a better life for themselves and their children. That is my wish, that South Sudanese will take the opportunity availed by this new year to reconcile and all the conflicts and disputes among themselves, and focused on reuniting themselves and start the process of state and nation building. So I thank you and welcome your viewers for this opportunity you have availed for us to discuss the problems concerning us all as South Sudanese.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan Amum Okiech, for your opening remark and your message, and also the Happy New Year to South Sudanese. To our viewers, once again, kindly share the live show. We need many people to tune in and listen to this conversation. Gerald, our conversation, as I said earlier, will start with the issue of Rome peace deal or peace talk between Soma and the government of national unity. This Rome peace talk has been going on for the last 4 years, if I'm not wrong, and you will correct me on that. And many citizens have been watching closely and following up the issue of peace talk. When will you return to Juba, and when exactly will this peace materialize? And unfortunately, it has taken long. And fortunately, actually, last year, the government of national unity requests and sent a letter to the leadership of Kenya through Dr. William Ruto that he should take over the negotiation mantles in order to negotiate the peace between Soma and the government. And the I apologize for the interruption. And the government. And on that note, we discussed last time, and you said, as a Soma leadership, you have not yet met and you have not received formal communication from both sides, either from the government of South Sudan or from the government of Kenya, to inform you officially that the peace negotiations has been shifted from Rome to Kenya. And as being said, you were waiting to receive formal communications, and also as a leadership, you said you will convene a meeting to talk about it and also to see what will be your position. And that is why the Lagos State media tried to invite you once again to come and update the public in regard to that issue. Kindly, can you update us? Have you met as a leadership of Soma? And if you have met, have you received any formal communication either from the government of South Sudan or the government of Kenya in regard to the venue being shifted to Kenya and the peace talk? Thank you so much, Gerald. The chance is yours.
Thank you very much, Brother Majok. This is a very important question. Indeed, after we had that discussion last time, on the 5th of January, the leaders of the opposition, we received letters from President William Ruto informing us that the government of South Sudan have requested him, President Kiir, have requested him to mediate between the Soma and and the revitalized or reconstituted government of national unity, Artegonu. And President Ruto, in his letter, also informed us that he has accepted to mediate, and he was writing to us to seek our concurrence or acceptance of this initiative, and that he was ready to mediate. Also, President Ruto, in his letter, informed us that he was going to seek the partnership of Sant'Egidio community and would reach out to them so that they can partner in this negotiation, and together they try their best to bring peace for the people of South Sudan to enjoy peace and prosperity, which has eluded the people since independence. That was the content of the letter, and President Ruto proposed that his government would be ready to engage the parties in pre-mediation consultations in Nairobi. After we received these letters, we met as the non-signatory South Sudanese opposition group, NSSOG, and we discussed the new development. The opposition, in their discussion, welcome the initiative and the acceptance of President Ruto to mediate. They also welcome the decision of President Ruto to partner with Sant'Egidio community. And we in the opposition, we then welcome the proposed pre-mediation consultations to engage with the government of Kenya. At the same time, many of our opposition parties have expressed concern that in Kenya we have serious security concerns because the government of South Sudan agents have been abducting many South Sudanese political and civil society activists from Kenya. They have been disappeared. We know some of them have been abducted and taken to South Sudan, where they were assassinated or killed in extrajudicial killings, and others have been tortured and disappeared. We do not know of their whereabouts. And these were activities that were still going on, including recently last year, South Sudanese were being abducted from Kenya by South Sudanese security agents. And this is a major concern. If Kenya is to mediate, then this is one of the issues that need to be addressed and resolved. These were the agreements by the non-signatories leaders, and they have responded The 5 organizations have responded to the government of Kenya. In this, there was a slight divergence in the response. Two of the organizations responded that they welcome the Kenyan initiative and the pre-mediation consultations to take place in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya, as President Ruto would be inviting the parties, and that we would discuss all these issues, including the security concerns by all the parties. While 3 of our organizations were of the view that the pre-mediation consultations should take place in Rome, outside Kenya, to discuss these issues, particularly the issue of security concerns, as some of our members' organization would not be comfortable to attend these discussions in Kenya. At least the pre-mediation consultations should take place outside Kenya. And the proposed Rome where we were negotiating with the government of South Sudan. Now, this being the case, there are very important points that we must also inform the public. First, the government of South Sudan and President Kiir unilaterally decided to request Kenya to mediate without informing the Sant'Egidio community mediation, and also without informing the opposition. We are party to the negotiations in Rome. The fact that the government of South Sudan decided to ask Kenya to mediate, it means the government of South Sudan have walked out from the Sant'Egidio mediation. Walking out from Sant'Egidio mediation by itself is a bad sign from the side of government, and also not informing the opposition whom were negotiating with them in the Sant'Egidio mediated process in Rome, was showing bad faith. They could have informed us. They could have even proposed to us and discussed with them whether we go to a new mediation and why. And the fact that they did not consult with Sant'Egidio mediation is also a bad sign, because they walked out behind the back of the mediators and behind the back of the opposition whom were negotiating with them. And these are points that the government of South Sudan should take note of. It is a bad behavior, and this is not the best way to look for peace. And this is adding to the bad conduct of the government of South Sudan, when from time to time, when we are discussing serious issues, the government would walk out from the talks and suspend their participation. And this has happened several times. And this actually, in our view, is the reason why the Rome process delayed and took so much time without achieving any progress, was because of the behavior of government of South Sudan. We hope that now that they have asked the government of Kenya to mediate, they would change their behavior and become more serious. And we hope that they will not walk away again when things become tough to go to Uganda or to Ethiopia and leave the Kenyan mediation. Maybe when things become difficult for them or when they don't like it. This should be some lessons that the government of South Sudan and also the mediator, as well as the opposition, will learn from. That is one observation. Can you believe up to now, the government of South Sudan did not informed us of their initiative? It is only President Ruto who informed us of the letter written by President Kiir and the decision of or the proposal of President Kiir and the government of South Sudan for Kenya to mediate. Up to now, there is no communication between us and the government of South Sudan. We are literally still in Rome. Another development that you might have followed in the media is that President Ruto visited Rome and met with Sant'Egidio community, and they have agreed to work together. And President Ruto and his team expressed readiness to take into consideration what has been achieved in Rome and to begin from where the parties ended. To remind you and your viewers and listeners, we in the Rome process, we have discussed and signed a number of documents from the Rome Declaration and the Rome Resolution and other documents. As well, we have also discussed and ended with the tabling of the proposal for the round table in the last Rome talks, where the government of South Sudan decided to ask for adjournment to go for consultations, and that is where we ended. I hope all these positions and points of discussion, whether agreed or we were not agreed, would be accompanied by the Kenyan mediation as we look for an inclusive process that will bring peace to our country and to our people. These are the latest development. So at this stage, the non-signatories are engaging with the government of Kenya in preparation for the pre-mediation consultations. I hope that the meeting in Rome would also lead for Sant'Egidio facilitating some of these meetings either in Rome or in Nairobi for Kenya to take over fully the mediation in partnership with Sant'Egidio. That is where we are in terms of the developments on the new initiative for Kenya to mediate, started by President Kiir proposal in a letter he wrote to President Ruto on Christmas Day last year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald Pagan Amum, for explanations and also updating the public in regard to the developments happening between the non-signatories, the government of South Sudan, and the government of Kenya, plus and Gideon in Rome. According to your explanation, Gerald, you have mentioned three key points. You mentioned us as non-signatories, you have some concern. Literally, it means you have not yet agreed that you will engage in negotiations in Kenya with the government of South Sudan due to security reasons, as you cited before. Secondly, you mentioned the government of South Sudan unilaterally made a decision without consultation. And you concluded that there is engagement between the non-signatories, the government of Kenya, and the government of South Sudan in order to find a suitable ground where both of you can meet and discuss the agreement in details. Kindly considering the umbrella of SOMA, there are allegations that the SOMA was divided. There were those who were for Kenya, and there were other parties within SOMA who were against Kenya due to the reason some of them you have mentioned. Can you make that clear to the public? Basically, the public mentioned two parties. They have mentioned the Democratic Movement-Patriotic Front actually, which is headed by Emmanuel Ajawin. They have mentioned NAS, which is under Thomas Cirillo. That these two political parties don't agree the venue to be shifted to Kenya because of their security and all this. And maybe there is mistrust. They don't trust the government of Kenya to take care of the security while the negotiation will be ongoing. Kindly, can you clarify that before we move to further question? Thank you. Yeah, and media subject.
Thank you very much. This is a very important point. Let me clarify this point briefly. What exactly is the situation? One, the non-signatories have welcomed the decision of President Ruto to accept to mediate between us, the non-signatories, and the government of South Sudan. We welcome that decision, all of us. Two, we also welcome the decision of President Ruto to seek partnership with Sant'Egidio community so that together they will be partners in the new mediation. Three, we also welcome President Ruto proposal to hold consultations before the mediation starts. Before any mediation, President Ruto is proposing to engage the parties in the opposition and the government on discussions which he called pre-mediation consultations. In these discussions, any issue related to the talks in terms of who will participate, where these talks will be, the issues concerning the talks, if there are concerns by the parties, will be discussed. And that is in the pre-mediation consultation, before any mediation starts or before any negotiation starts. And that will be between the government of Kenya, the new mediator, and the parties. That is to say, the government as a party and the non-signatories or others as the other party in the mediation. These are all points which are agreed. Now, we in the opposition express concern on the issue of abductions of South Sudanese from Kenya, and these security concerns are real. And all of us are agreed that we have to raise these issues. And it is also an agreement by the opposition parties. Where there is a difference, and please mark my word here, where there is a difference between the two organizations, that is to say SSUF and real SPLM on one side, and three organizations, NAS, NDM, and SSNMC. Three organizations on the other side, where there is a diversion in their position, is in only one single point, which is where the pre-mediation consultations will take place to raise a number of issues, including the security. The two organizations are saying we are ready to discuss this pre-mediation consultation in Nairobi, in Kenya, as President Ruto is inviting us. The three organizations are saying no, we want the pre-mediation consultation to take place outside Kenya in Rome. And it is not a disagreement actually within the opposition, within the non-signatories. It is only a point of where these talks will take place. We are all agreed that we are going to engage in pre-mediation consultations. Whether they are to take place in Kenya, as the two organizations, Real SPLM and SSUF, are willing and ready to hold it, or in Rome, where the three organizations, NAS, NDM, and SSNMC, are proposing for these talks to take place. Whether they take place in Rome, we are ready to go for Rome, and that will give comfort to the three organizations who are not now comfortable to attend these meetings in Nairobi, Kenya. Or if they are to take place in Nairobi, the two organizations will also be comfortable with it if the other side agree. Now that President Ruto has met with Sant'Egidio in Rome, the likelihood of Rome facilitating the meeting between the Kenyan side and the opposition is also a possibility, because now Sant'Egidio is a partner of Kenya, and possibly they can hold this pre-mediation consultation in Rome. So it is not a big point of disagreement with us. I hope this is clear to your listeners. This is as far as the pre-mediation consultation is concerned. For your information also, I want to correct what you have just said, that we are engaging or consulting with the government of South Sudan. No, this is not true. Up to now, there is no any engagement with the government of South Sudan, not with the non-signatories. The government of South Sudan is engaging with the government of Kenya, and the government of Kenya is engaging with us and the government of South Sudan. So there is no any direct communication. Actually, we are blaming the government of South Sudan for not informing us when they chose to ask Kenya to mediate and when they chose to walk out from the Sant'Egidio community mediation in Rome. The government of South Sudan actually walked out from these talks, and they have ended those talks unilaterally without even any discussion. And that is an irresponsible move by the government. This is forum shopping. It is like somebody, you go to this court, you ask the court to solve a problem between you and your brother. And when the court is about to take some decisions you don't like, you jump out and you go for another court. That is not a good behavior. This is not, it will not lead to solving a problem. It reminds me of the way the government of Sudan used to take us all around the world. You know, you remember President Bashir asked President Babangida of Nigeria to mediate between us, the SPLM, and them. And we went to Nigeria with Abuja 1 and Abuja 2. Then the government of Sudan again walked away from Abuja talks and asked the IGAD countries to mediate between us. And again, they walked out from IGAD, and they tried to go to the Egyptians, they tried to go to the Libyans, and that was a problem that delays the process until in the end, they were forced by the situation to come back to IGAD. And those talks, of course, you know that they led in the end to the signing of the CPA.
Thank you so much, Gerald, for clarification and for also setting some things straight, like the engagement between the non-signatories and the government of South Sudan. Thank you for that. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in and for also listening very keenly. Kindly continue sharing the live show. We still have a few questions to pose on his desk. General, you have said you have agreed and you have welcomed the decision, and the only issue, which is not even a big deal, was just a suggestion. Two political parties suggested that we should go to Kenya for pre-mediation talk. Another three suggest we should go to Rome in order to set some ground rules before the actual mediation. And that is the things on the way. And you have mentioned, actually, President William Ruto is engaging with Senator Gideon. Basically, within no time, the decision might come out between President William Ruto and Senator Gideon, whether they will agree to have pre-mediation in Rome, or they will convince you other political parties in order to move to Kenya in order to set the ground rule. Thank you so much for setting that straight. But there is an issue here, General. Previously, you were SOMA, and you are still SOMA now. But there is new alliance, which is National Consensus Forum. We discussed this in our last interviews, and you have mentioned and you have explained it thoroughly. But yet there are some still questions from the citizens. They want to know once again that what is the impact of you moving and negotiate with the government of South Sudan as National Consensus Forum or as a SOMA? In other words, they want to know, if you agree to move to Kenya, will you move as a SOMA or you'll move as a new National Consensus Forum, which is New Alliance? As you will answer that, you will also add this part B. There are some other parties who want to join the National Consensus Forum to be with you. Are you ready to welcome them on board? Have you already welcomed some of them? Or you are still dropping the documents that will guide this new alliance? So the reason why they ask is maybe they want to know where you stand other non-signatories, and not even to give government two different faces for the government to get confused which one to negotiate with and which one to be left out. Thank you so much. The chance is yours.
Thank you. Actually, I just came out from a meeting of the National Consensus Forum to come to attend this interview. The National Consensus Forum members were briefed by the non-signatories or some whom were invited by President Ruto to negotiate with the government in a Kenyan mediated process, taking over and partnering with Sant'Egidio. In our briefing to the National Consensus Forum, the membership of the National Consensus Forum, the leaders of National Consensus Forum, empowered and mandated the non-signatories to engage with the government of Kenya to welcome this. They welcome this initiative and the pre-mediation consultations. And therefore, we have the endorsement of the National Consensus Forum and mandating the non-signatories to engage with the government of Kenya and to discuss all these issues related to the peace talks with the government of Kenya in the pre-mediation consultation. One very important aspect that we will discuss with the government of Kenya is for the government of Kenya to learn lessons from the various mediations that have tried to achieve peace in South Sudan. There are many agreements that have been mediated and signed between the opposition and the government, and which have not been implemented. And there are other mediation, like the Sant'Egidio mediation, which did not achieve a breakthrough and an agreement. I believe the experiences of all these mediations would help the Kenyan mediation to draw lessons from them by asking themselves, what is it that they can do differently to really achieve a breakthrough and achieve a transition to peace and stability and improvement of the living conditions of the people of South Sudan, different from all the other mediation that have been tried and many agreements that have been signed but could not usher South Sudan to peace and prosperity. These are issues which are very important. The other aspect that we will definitely discuss with the government of Kenya as a new mediator are the issue of inclusivity and participation of South Sudanese stakeholders. The invitation by President Ruto are limited to SOMA members only. There are many other opposition groups, some of whom who are very active, who are not members of SOMA, a new organization that started to oppose the government, and they are very important to be part of the search for peace in South Sudan if we are to achieve an inclusive peace. Organizations like, for example, South Sudan People's Movement under the leadership of General Stephen Boy, as an example. There are other groups that is splintered from the SPLM-IO when the SPLM-IO under the leadership of Dr. Riek Machar signed the revitalized peace agreement, and they are in the opposition, and they are not party to SOMA, and they were not party with the talks involved. We know that President Kiir only referred to SOMA in his request to President Ruto, and therefore we need to discuss inclusivity. We believe that for peace, for us to achieve peace in South Sudan, we may need to have an inclusive process with the participation of all South Sudanese stakeholders, and for these talks not to be limited only to political parties in the government and opposition armed groups and political parties in the opposition. Limiting this search for peace to the political elites and the armed group in South Sudan, as it was in the past, this tended to focus on power sharing, which mostly undermines the achievement of peace and achievement of transition to stability and democracy in our country and good governance, like it has been the case in the previous agreement. So the question of having an inclusive process is definitely a very important issue to be discussed, and definitely it would be probably one of the lessons that the Kenyan mediation will learn from, and to do things in such a way as different from the focus that has led to so many agreements not implemented and to so many failed transitions that never delivered us to peace and stability in South Sudan.
Thank you so much, Gerald, for that clarification. Literally, it means within the pre-negotiations or pre-mediation with the government of Kenya, you will table all this, including the inclusivity, which is under the National Consensus Forum, of which you will try to make sure you bring on board all other willing opposition to join, and other actors like activists, church-based group, and all the women-based group.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Gerald, we are left with one question because of time. I understand you have other commitment. And this question is about election. Considering its time is against the plans of the government, and many citizens are so curious to know exactly what will be the fate of the roadmap at the end of this transitional period, which will be December this year. Kindly, can you give us your opinions in regard to that? Are you optimistic that the election will take place in December or not? And if your peace talk may yield fruits before May, and you will be in Juba by May, and this is an example, do you believe between May and December everything will be set on record and we will go for election? We need your opinion in regard to that before we end our conversation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I am not optimistic at all that elections will take place by December, by December this year or by the end of this year. That is not possible. And we have listened to various views and opinion about elections, and there is a wrong perception out there that the opposition or even the parties in the government are opposed to election, while President Kiir and SPLM in government, the ruling party of the revitalized or reconstituted government of national unity, the main leading party, are the one for elections. But let me correct this wrong impression. It is not true that the opposition are against elections, free and fair elections. What is happening is actually, in my view, and based on facts, and I will share with you these facts, are that President Kiir himself and the SPLM in government are the one who are failing to deliver on their promises to the people of South Sudan again. The government of South Sudan signed the revitalized peace agreement. And in the revitalized peace agreement, they agreed to conduct election at the end of the transitional period. But what happened? President Kiir and SPLM in government obstructed the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement, as we, the non-signatories, predicted and refused to sign that agreement in Khartoum or in Addis Ababa, and we said that this agreement is not going to be implemented. This agreement is going to be used by the SPLM in government and President Kiir to consolidate the regime. And that is what exactly happened. The 36 months of transition and the 8 months of pre-transition expired, and the agreement has not been implemented. The reform of the state has not been implemented. The establishment of state institutions to provide for good governance and good management of public resources have not been implemented. Justice and accountability has not been implemented. Reconciliation of the national healing have not been implemented. The security sector transformation has not been implemented. All the programs, including the reconstruction of the country and stabilization of the country, the return of the refugees, and the resettlement of the refugees and the internally displaced people have not been implemented. The census have not been conducted. The constituencies have not been demarcated. The voter registration have not been carried out. The National Election Commission, which was supposed to be established in May 2020 as per the agreement, has been delayed for over 3 years, for more than 3 years, and it was just now in December 2023 that is when it was reconstituted. And even it has been reconstituted not as an independent election commission, its independence is a doubt, but even with that, in the 2023 budget, the government of President Kiir, while President Kiir was saying that election is going to take place in 2024 as the most important activity of the reconstituted government of national unity in South Sudan, especially when they sign the extension and the roadmap, the government did not allocate a budget for election. And now the National Election Commission does not have a budget up to now. They are talking of a supplementary. The environment, the political environment in South Sudan does not provide for a political space of freedom or a civic space for the citizens to engage in discussions, criticism, and of the status quo and the government, so that the political parties can organize themselves and prepare for elections. All this is not there. And if you look very carefully, it is the SPLM in government which is blocking all these processes and have decided not to deliver on all the prerequisites agreed in the RRCs for the holding of elections. And I have mentioned them to you all. First of all, it was agreed that these elections will only be conducted in accordance with the permanent constitution that will be passed in South Sudan, permanent constitution. These are not elections that can be conducted under any constitution, no. They are saying specifically that these elections must be conducted in accordance with the provision of permanent constitution of South Sudan. We do not have a permanent constitution of South Sudan. Why? Because it is blocked by the SPLM in government. There are no freedoms in South Sudan for the political parties to operate. Just look at the main partner of SPLM in government, the SPLM-IO. The SPLM-IO is not free to conduct It's political work. In the country, they have no freedom to organize rallies. Dr. Riek has never organized, or his party has never organized a rally in Juba. From the time he went to Juba and signed the agreement, he is not able to travel outside Juba or outside South Sudan. He is not free. How can they compete when they are being blocked? Not even to operate. You have seen what happened to the SPLM-IO attempt to organize themselves in Tony or in Lake State or in northern Bahr Ghazal State. They have been attacked and arrested and beaten in all these places. No wonder that they are not able to do anything. This is the main party in the RRCs. Of course, forget about all the other parties, like in SAWA, the parties in SAWA and others. You know how most of SAWA have been incorporated by the SPLM-IG and become their wing. Even some of their activities are being blocked. Like, for example, when Dr. Lama Cole, the leader of NDM, who is a member of SAWA and the Secretary General of SAWA, when he returned to South Sudan, a function organized by SAWA and attended by the Vice President Hussein Abdel Baghi, who is the Vice President for SAWA, was dispersed. Their function was dispersed and stopped by the national security not to go ahead. And since then, SAWA has never conducted any political activity in the country. No rallies, no party organizations, and all this. And therefore, there is no space to hold a free and fair elections in South Sudan. Even if you take the SPLM in government, the SPLM in government is even not ready for elections. Just look at the timelines and the processes. Every party, like the SPLM in government, according to their constitutions, they were supposed to hold Buma, Payam, county, and state congresses and finalize with a national convention of the SPLM in government. These processes have not even started. What they have started is something outside the party constitution, and it is an activity which was to seek the nomination and endorsement of President Kiir as the flag bearer of SPLM-IG. They conducted one of the regional conferences in Wau. They were to conduct another regional conference in Malakal. It has not taken place. And for a number of reasons, it is not taking place. There are discussions now in Jungle, in Bor, to hold a mini conference or rally, regional rally, to seek the endorsement of President Kiir as the SPLM-IG flag bearer. They were planning to have another regional rally in Equatoria, which is not there. So if the SPLM in government has not even started their official processes to prepare themselves for elections and to finalize the nomination, not only of the flag bearer and the candidate for presidency, but also candidates for governors of all the states, candidates for the administrators of all the 3 administrative areas, and candidates for national MPs, national parliament, and candidates for state parliament, candidates for commissioners, candidates for councils, county councils. All these nominations are required for every party to finalize way several months before, if not a year before, the conduct of elections. The SPLM-IG is not yet prepared. All these processes are up to now suspended. They are just discussing one endorsement, that is the endorsement of President Kiir, which is even before the national convention where the official election of the candidate for the presidency will be conducted. So if the SPLM-IG is not prepared for these elections, who is else that is prepared? And they are the one talking about elections. In actual fact, what I see is that the SPLM-IG is just deceiving the people of South Sudan again. Like usually, they will promise to implement the agreement and they fail to implement, they block it. Now they have blocked the implementation of the roadmap so that they present their partners with another fait accompli situation, another extension. I'm sure they are beginning to discuss. You can see now floating, there are proposals floating for extension 6 months, for extension of 1 year, for extension of 5 years. And that was what everybody knew was going to come. But this is not going to solve the problem. This time round, the SPLM in government and the ruling clique are running also out of time, not only running out of legitimacy, and they are discussing this, but the danger that they have pushed the country to another brink of collapse into chaos and disorder is real. That is why I believe it is time for the leadership of SPLM-IG, for the leadership of the government of reconstituted government of national unity, RT-GONO, for all the parties in South Sudan, whether in the government or in the opposition, and indeed for all South Sudanese stakeholders, our religious leaders, our women leaders, our youth leaders, our civil society organization. It is time for us to start a national conversation to rescue the country. And with all the developments that are happening in the world and that are happening in the region, including in Sudan, the war in Sudan, which is seriously endangering the national security and interest of South Sudan, it is time for us really to think of how to rescue the country, how to take South Sudan out of this cycle of failed transition, of failed extensions and continuous extension one way or the other. This trap of state failure and fragility which South Sudan is boxed in and oscillating between civil war, signing peace agreements that are not implemented, and return to war, or extending the transition from time to time. This trap is pushing South Sudan to a very dangerous moment. It is time for us to really seriously think, how can we extricate South Sudan from this trap and deliver it into a path to exit fragility and state failure and state capture into a peaceful path of a state and nation building, where we can realize the dream of our people to have a peaceful and a prosperous life. This is really the challenge that we have. And it is not a challenge of the government alone. It is a challenge of the opposition as well. It is indeed a challenge for all South Sudanese. This is about the survival of South Sudan or the collapse of South Sudan into chaos. And we must be serious this time. And that is why I am saying also that maybe the Kenyan initiative could be our last opportunity to rescue South Sudan before it collapses into chaos and disorder. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Pagan. I think we come to conclusion. This is our last question, and you answered it all. And thank you so much for coming to Lake State Media, and we really thank you for update the public. Before I let you go, I would like you to put in your last word, and I will let you go. Thank you.
Well, my last word really is what I just said. It is time for South Sudanese to begin a national conversation and a serious soul search to rescue the country. The country has reached to a dead end of failed transitional periods and failed extensions that never delivered peace and transition to democracy. And it is time to think how to deliver South Sudan into a path where we can usher it into a new dispensation of peace, justice, and prosperity for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Pagan, and it's wonderful you came to Lake State Media and update, and also too, we will bring you back again when you and your colleague and the government meet in Nairobi, Kenya for a start. So for me said, I would like to say on behalf of Lake State Media, we would like to say thank you so much. And for all the viewers who are watching in YouTube, Facebook, and Clubhouse, thank you for tuning in. We will bring in the propaganda as they are going ahead with the government with the peace negotiation in Nairobi, Kenya, until we.
Well, before we go to Nairobi, Kenya, we are now engaged in pre-mediation consultation. We hope we will overcome all the concerns that have been expressed, right. And we hope that the Kenyan initiative, in partnership with Santo would be an opportunity to achieve peace and a transition to justice and prosperity in South Sudan, which has eluded our people for so many years since independence. And we hope that 2024 will be a year of peace or any time there. Thank you very much. And thank you to you and to your listeners and viewers for always giving us this opportunity to share with you the concerns about our country.
Thank you so much. Before I let you go, there is one clarification. The government is saying that when I see there is an article that they give out that they are about to submit the name to Kenyan government, to Kenyan president, the name that they will go and negotiate with Soma. It's the same thing to Soma. Do you guys will submit same name, or it will be the new faces? And also what I'm hearing from General Thomas Cirillo, the support, they are thinking that they will put somebody will go to representing him instead of him going. Is that the case? Just point of clarification.
We are actually, that is too early to answer that question. Okay. We are now at this stage. We have not yet started the pre-mediation consultations to discuss about the concerns that we have in relation to the Kenyan initiative and other issues related to the talks themselves, how they are going to be, what would be the lessons learned from the other mediations, including Sant'Egidio and IGAD mediation. These are the issues we are now about to enter into. So it is not yet, the negotiations have not yet started for parties to submit their delegation. I think the government is in a hurry. I don't know why they are doing that, but there is definitely a lot of President Ruto has proposed a pre-mediation consultation to discuss about the mediation itself and about these talks. These will be talks about the talks. And when we are done with them, then and we have agreed to the mediation, then we will then move in the direction of the parties appointing their delegations, and then the parties would then submit those delegations. Then the consultations would be on when the talks will start. So it is too early. The Kenyan initiative has just started with consultations, whether Kenya can do it and how will it do it, and what will be the format, who will participate. These are issues that have not yet been discussed. So we will definitely come to deal with these issues when we have finished the pre-mediation consultations.
Thank you. General Pagan. Isaac, you want to say something for let Honorable Pagan go?
Yes, just to say thank you so much, General Pagan, for coming to Lagos State Media, and we are always happy for your presence here and to update the public to know what is going on. And also would like to thank all our viewers, once again, those who are watching in YouTube and Facebook, in the Clubhouse as well. Thank you. Please share this video. Sharing the news and information will pave the way for all of us to have a rightful decisions making and thinking and participation in different ways or capacities that each and everyone have. So just thank you. We will end up the show here and we will catch up again. May God bless you. May God bless South Sudan. Wherever you are highly welcome and you are blessed.
God bless you and God bless South Sudan.
Amen.
Toyina Pierre wala rumbe, Toyin Ping William. Toyina Will wala Pibor, Toyin Ping William. Toyin Juba wala Tori, Ayam Yo, Toyin Ping William. Toyin Benti wala Kwaju, Wow, Toyin Ping William. Toyin Malkal wala Pinyaram, Toyin Ping William.